We'll be replacing a tire on the RX7. This is the same process when replacing a tube or a motor. This is the tools you will need. Now the first step is with your 21mm socket, loosen the axle nuts holding the motor in place. Just loosen them, don't take them out yet. Now the next step, with a pair of snippers or scissors, cut the zip ties holding the motor cable onto the swing arm. So you will see two zip ties, one the closest to the motor and one on the back, kind of down the shock. So once you do so, you can go ahead and completely remove the axle nuts and also the lock washer. Or you just pull the motor apart like so. Now this connection can be hard to pull out, so use both hands, push and pull at the same time like this. And now, to have more space to work on your tire, we'll have to remove the brake disc with a T25 Torx tool. So remove these 6 bolts holding it onto the motor. Set it aside. Now flip the tire. You will see 6 4mm hex screws holding the rim onto the motor. So the first thing we want to do is take the air out. So just grab any tool to push the valve stem and release all the air. So now that you can go ahead and remove all the 6 bolts holding the tire or the wheel to the motor. Now once you do so, just push it and you should be able to pull the rim apart along with the tire. And now take out the rim out of the tire. And make sure to keep your bolts together so you don't lose them. And now grab your new tire or a tube or a motor, whichever part you are replacing, since it's the same process. We'll be changing a tube in this video. So grab your tube, make sure the tire orientation is facing forward. There should be an arrow on the tire wall that tells you which is the right orientation. Once you find it, make sure to install the tube in the correct position. So it should be on the opposite side of the brake caliper, meaning the valve stem should be on the left. Get your rim and slide the valve stem onto the rim hole, like so. Now that you have it in place, you can go ahead and put the tire and rim onto the motor. So just make sure the valve stem sits on this groove right here on the motor. Back on. And now you can screw back in the 6 bolts onto the motor. Now the next step is inflate your tire at the right PSI. On the RX7 it should be 2.5 bar, and you can find this number on the tire wall. If you have your tire inflated, you can go ahead, put the valve cap back on, then flip your motor and install the brake disc back in place. There will be an arrow that you need to align or install correctly so it's facing forward. So like this. Now screw back in the 6 T25 bolts in place. Well, the next step is to put back your motor into the swing arms. So make sure this cable right here is facing downwards. And all you have to do is slide the motor into the swing arms and tighten the axle bolts right here. Make sure the lock washer sits in place, like so. Tighten these axle nuts as much as you can. Like so. Now the next step is to plug back in your motor. Make sure it's aligned properly. There should be an arrow for reference and a groove on one of the connections. Now the last step is to zip tie your cable onto the swing arm as it was before. There should be 2 zip ties holding it. So one zip tie closest to the tire or the motor. Sure it's tied. And the last one is on the back of the swinger. Now just cut the excess zip tie, both, and that's it.